Tam Talks explores life, spirituality, and general weirdness through quirky storytelling and laughter, lighting you up in your life journey. Let's go! Well, hello and welcome back to another Tam Talks episode. I'm going to talk about Reiki for this episode. I don't know why I haven't talked about it sooner. So if you don't know what Reiki is, I'm going to try to give just like a general overview and like a simple kind of explanation, and then my personal experience and how I got into it. So Reiki is a Japanese healing technique, and it's basically energetic healing. So if you're completely new to energy healing, then it might blow your brain. So go and Google it. But I'll do my best. So basically, when we do Reiki, I tell people it's like a massage for your soul. So when you go and get like a physical massage, or like say acupuncture or osteo, any of that, it's like kind of physically you're manipulating, like you're working with the physical body. Well, some of them you're working with a little bit of kind of that emotional and spiritual as well. But with Reiki, we are not like manipulating your physical body. We have hands on, but we're holding a position. So we're gently touching and holding an area. Other areas we're hovering over. And so the way that I was trained with Usui Reiki which is Tibetan, the Tibetan style, is that we have a very specific set of like almost like a routine for the human body. So we start at the head and then we kind of work around the body counterclockwise. And then we have the person flip over and then we kind of go over the chakras. So we're working with your chakras. It's almost like you're shaking up any stagnant energy sitting within the body. So the whole idea is that, physical stuff that happens, emotional stuff, or sorry, not physical, emotional things that happen, even like trauma, any kind of life experiences that we just don't deal with, that we maybe shove down and we bury, eventually manifest physically. And I feel like that is for everything in life. And there's actually a really cool book, side quest. There's a really cool book by Louise Hay that my Aunt Lori gave me called You Can Heal Your Life, or You Can Heal Yourself, one of the two. And it's amazing. You can read it, but at the back is like this little inventory of physical ailments, and then it gives you the emotional connection to it. Okay, if you hear a weird sound in the background, I'm at my she shed and it's just my door. So apologies. Hopefully it's not carrying through, but if it is, I am not being rude. Okay, so the premise with Reiki is that if we can kind of shake up on an energetic level the emotional kind of disturbances or imbalances within the body, we can shift them out, clear them out. And when we work with the different kind of hand positions, we work over each chakra as well as, like your arm and your head, your ears, we hover over your eyes, all of that stuff. So a lot of times Reiki practitioners have I believe everybody has intuitive abilities, but when you become certified in Reiki and other modalities, kind of the more that you dive in and connect, that opens up those intuitive abilities. So a lot of times if you go for a Reiki treatment, your practitioner will have intuitive hits that are like little hints for you for your life. And so everybody has their own kind of style of what they do. I personally take notes, and a lot of my clients love it. They're just like, oh my gosh, I get so excited because I I write down the notes during the session, and then at the end I go through them, and it usually matches up to what they're experiencing. And sometimes, like, I even have people who have passed come through. So for me, I can see, like, in my mind's eye, I can see a picture of, say it's like someone who has passed. So I can have like a physical description, and then I also can get, like, like, I don't hear, but I know a name. So sometimes I'll get their name. Other times I will have, like, I'll be shown a picture of someone who I know. So then, whether they're past or alive. And so then I'll describe what that person looks like, or maybe what their name is. And then the person matches that up. And they're like, oh yeah, I have an Uncle Charlie, or something like that. It's really cool. So it's like putting puzzle pieces together. It's so great. And then I'll have sometimes messages. Sometimes these guides are just present, and they just want people to know that they're here, they're with them. Other times they have these big lengthy things. We've had some really cool, actually, I'll save those for some other podcast episodes. Yeah, because I've had some really epic experiences with people and their loved ones, and just really helping people to shift. So with Reiki, it's just another tool. I describe it as, it's kind of personal growth mixed in with spirituality and healing. It's fantastic. And I have my life coaching certification from previous years, and that kind of all mixes in. So with Reiki, there are 4 levels. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? I know traditionally there are 4 levels. I don't know if other ones have been shifted. Who knows? People change things and create new certifications and do stuff. But for this traditional Tibetan Usui Reiki, there are 4 levels. And so your level 1 is just kind of getting to know what Reiki is and the history, learning how to do it on yourself and maybe family. Your level 2 is so that you can have clients and you can open up a Reiki practice. Level 3 is your master level. So that just kind of deepens your experience as a level 2 practitioner. And your level 4 is your teacher level. So that is so that you can certify other practitioners, which is so freaking cool. So I remember when I got into Reiki. So I'll tell you my story now. Hopefully I've described it enough. Oh, no, wait, I know what else I should tell you. So when you receive Reiki, I always tell people the worst case scenario is you'll feel really relaxed and you'll probably have a great sleep that night. So while receiving Reiki, you may feel like tingling. You may hear like gurgling sounds in your stomach. You may have muscle twitches. You may get visions or hear things or just know things. Yeah, it's really cool. Some people will feel, and I've had this experience many times, where I will be, say, at the person's foot, and then they will say, oh yeah, when you were down at my feet, I could feel another set of hands on my shoulder. So a lot of times that can be a guide coming in. That could be, so one of their guides, one of my guides. It's really actually pretty cool. And I don't question. I always tell people, like, just roll with it. Don't worry about, just go with what it is. We'll figure it all out at the end, and maybe we won't. But yeah, so there's lots of kind of really interesting possibilities. Sometimes people will receive ideas or visions a couple of days after, or even a week after. I've had a couple of times where we've cleared some energy, I would say, from people that may not be of the highest caliber. So yeah, there's a lot of really fun and cool things, but it's completely safe. There's no religious affiliation. So you're not going to burst into flames if you're Christian or anything for coming and getting Reiki or even being certified. Actually, there's a funny little insert, and I know she's my friend as well. she'll appreciate this. So she's Christian, and we had quite the talk because she was like, "Well, I want to do this, but I don't know if it's against my religion." So, anyways, we decided, and she was like, "Okay, I'm doing my certification." And in the old, no, actually, it's in the current manual that my teacher created that I use with her permission. There's like illustrations of certain parts, and there's like this extra illustration for like kind of alternate methods or alternate ways of doing it. And the illustration, it looks like Jesus. And so she's like, "See, Tamiah, Jesus is a part of Reiki." It's so funny. So we had quite the laugh about that. I was like, I don't know that that's Jesus, but we'll just roll with it. So, anyways, but all jokes aside, there's no religious affiliation. It's simply like it's consciousness. It's God consciousness, right? So, but God consciousness doesn't necessarily mean like the God that we think it is. Like you're working with universal energy. So, yeah. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. And now I'm going to tell you how I got into Reiki. So, I was a professional organizer at the time, and I lived in Milton, and I remember going to a networking event in Mississauga, and I met this awesome lady there, Nizreen. And I remember chit-chatting with her, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a Reiki practitioner." And I'm like, "A what?" I had no idea. I don't even know if I had heard. No, maybe. No, I don't think I'd even heard. I'm trying to think of. Yes, I had, because my friend Pauline went to get Reiki, but I never. All I knew about it was that whenever she would go and get this Reiki, she would be super tired. And she'd say, "Yeah, I always get it so that I know I'm not working the next day because I'm just going to sleep the whole day. It just zonks me right out." So that's the only thing I knew about Reiki. I didn't know at all anything. So, anyways, I'm chit chatting and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, this lady's amazing. I love her." So, her and I arrange a little like coffee date, a couple weeks later. So, we get together and kind of chit chat and get to know each other. And she runs like meditation classes, and she's just this phenomenal woman. I just love her. So, anyways, I'm like, "Okay, well, I want to come for a Reiki session. I don't even know what it is, but let's do it." So she's like, "Oh, okay." So I go and have this Reiki session. I didn't even Google it. So, excuse me, I'm trying to think of how long ago this was. I don't even know. I don't, I, maybe like 10 years ago or so. Maybe more, maybe, I don't know. Anyways, so we set up the time. I go to her place in Oakville, go downstairs. No idea. Like I am blank slate. So she briefly describes what's going to go on, and I'm like, "Okay, cool, let's do it." I hop on the table, close my eyes, and I'm just like, "All right, like let's go, la la land." So I'm laying there, and I'm like, "Okay, like I don't know what's happening. Like it doesn't feel like she's doing much. Like her hands are just on me." And at this point, I don't think I was super deep into meditation. I think at this point I was like listening to guided meditations on Insight Timer with my boys before bed to kind of help them get ready to sleep. So it was more like nighttime and just relaxation. So I wasn't like super deep into spirituality at that point. So anyways, I'm laying there. Well, then I start seeing like my eyes are closed, and then I start seeing like this, it looks like this black ink flowing around in front of my face, and I'm like, "Ooh, that's kind of cool." And then I see like just these little glimpses of bright blue behind it. And this actually, at the time, I didn't even know. I wasn't into chakras at all. So I didn't know like the colors associated with the chakras. I knew nothing. And I'm just like, "Ooh, this is kind of cool what I'm seeing." So yeah, anyways. So I'm laying there, and she's just working around doing like the hand positions. Well, all of a sudden, I am freezing cold. Freezing cold. And I'm like, "What is happening?" And I felt like literally, I think she was at my right foot. And I'm laying there, and I felt like the life was being sucked out of me. And I mean, I don't say this to scare people because I had a very unique experience. Of course I did. That's who I am. If anything can be like just right friggin' out there, I'm going to do it. I'm going to experience it that way, apparently. So, anyways, I'm kind of laying there and I'm like, is this what's supposed to be happening? And then I didn't want to say anything. So I was like, well, I think it's fine. And then I'm like, is it her? Is there something evil happening? Like, what is going on? So, anyways, I just start thinking about like bright light and protection and all of that, which is funny because this was before I even knew to white light myself. I didn't even know that was an option. So I just kind of naturally was like, all right, I'm just going to like beam love around me, protection and light, and just make sure that everything's cool, that I'm not actually like, I couldn't move. I felt like literally the life was being sucked out of my right foot. And I'm like, this is nuts. So, and freezing, like so cold. Anyway, so she works around, finishes the session, and I'm just like, what? So, she's like, okay, you can sit up and all that stuff. And then we sit down and she was like, oh, so how are you feeling? And I'm like, okay, that was really weird though. Of course. And she was like, oh, what do you mean? And I'm like, I was really cold and I could see like this black liquid. And then all of a sudden I felt like the life was being sucked out of me. And she was like, oh, phew, I was seeing the same thing. And she's like, I thought it was you. I'm like, I thought it was you. So I'm like, I thought there was something evil going on here. And she's like, well, because we didn't really know each other, right? Like we'd only really had that one chat at the networking event and then the coffee together. Well, I don't drink coffee, but we had like a meetup. So anyways, we kind of chatted through it and I learned, I don't know if it was then or kind of in years after, that usually when you get that cold, it's like a really deep healing, and that blue color was my throat chakra basically being cleared. And that's your voice, that's speaking your truth, and that's your communication portal, right? So I thought, okay, well, apparently something in my body needed to be cleared. So that was kind of my Reiki experience. And so I was like, cool, well, don't know that I'll ever really need to do that again. Like, I don't know what happened from that, but whatever, we'll see. So anyways, so now I continue along with life. I'm doing my organizing business. Life goes on. Well, there was a shift in our world, as everybody knows, in 2019. No, yeah, 2019, 2020. I don't know. That whole virus thing. And so I could not, as a professional organizer, go into homes anymore. And I was also kind of over it at the time anyways. Like I had been an organizer for, I think it was like 4 or 5 years at that point. And it was fun and I loved clients, but it was like really heavy, like physical work, and I'm heaving people's stuff around and it's dusty and whatever, right? So I was kind of thinking, so I had done my life coaching certification online, and yeah, so I was kind of in this like state of, what am I going to do? I was doing some like consulting and helping people with their MailChimp, like their mail lists and social media stuff, like stuff like that. But obviously that wasn't my passion. It was just kind of a fill in the blanks thing. So anyways, fast forward to a summer day and we're all going to go to the beach, like a bunch of neighbors. And my mom, I get this phone call from my aunt saying, apparently your mom has fallen and she's been taken to the hospital. And she was walking the dog. So I'm like, what? Okay. So the boys go to the beach with the neighbors. I zip over to the hospital where I find my mom, who is unconscious, in the like emergency room. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? So the nurses are like, yeah. So she basically, what happened was she was walking her dog, and then a dog in a house, like on a front window, I guess, barked. And then her dog reacted and wiped her out. So my mom basically like face planted and like knocked herself out. And then, yeah. And then, so she was taken by ambulance to the hospital, the dog, blah, blah. So she's unconscious. And the nurses are like, yeah, she kind of is in and out. consciousness. So I'm like, what is going on? So she kind of starts talking, and she's like, she kept saying she felt really, really nauseous. And then she was like, where's Quinn, her dog? And then I can never remember the third thing, but she just kept repeating these same three things. So I was like, okay. So I just sat with her, and they had like taken her off to do a CT scan and whatever, other things. And she was just kind of resting. And so the nurses are watching. She was in quite this like big room with all of these things. But anyway, so I'm sitting there, and in previous years, my mom worked with special needs at a high school level, and one of her professional development courses was therapeutic touch. And so she had taken that course, and this was like, I think I was in my early 20s when that happened. So she had kind of taught my aunt and I how to do it, even though we weren't like certified. So anytime, over the years, anybody would be injured or feel sick, have a sore back, whatever, we would do therapeutic touch. And even my grandfather, like when he had his legs amputated, we would do therapeutic touch because he'd have ghost pain. So he would feel pain where his legs were or his feet. And so anyways, and so we had always over the years done this therapeutic touch. That was our go-to. And then when my boys were really young, if they weren't feeling well, whatever, we would do this therapeutic touch. But it was never, you don't do it around the head. That's like one of the rules. So anyways, back to the hospital. So my mom's there, out and then in, and she's just kind of whatever. So it took me, I don't know, like a couple hours. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, why aren't I doing therapeutic touch? So I take a minute and I'm like, well, let's just have at it. So I just start focusing on helping her to feel better because she hates being nauseous. And I'm the same. We don't want to throw up or anything like that. So I just have that intention to help the nausea go away and just help her feel better. So I'm doing that over like her stomach area. Well, not even 5 minutes. And she opens up her eyes and she looks at me and she's like, oh, that feels better. Keep doing it. And then closes her eyes and she's out again. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I keep doing this. And I look over and I'm like, oh boy, the nurses are going to think I'm batty. Well, no. They look over at me and they're like, keep doing it. It works. And I learned later that there were like Reiki practitioners in different, like the Oakville Trafalgar Hospital. When a friend of mine was in, she had a stroke. They were like, oh, would you like Reiki? And she was like, yes, please. So there's actually practitioners that were in. So anyways, these nurses were like, keep doing it. It works. So I keep going. And now I think, you know what? I'm going to do like, let's clear her mind. Like, let's get her thoughts clear so she's not, repeating these same things. Let's just keep going with clarity and overall. And like her face was bruised, her hand was bruised, like she had really wiped out badly. Her knee was bruised, like, oh, it's so cute. So anyways, I just kept doing her whole body and then just really that clarity of mind. Not even 5 minutes again, she opens up her eyes and she's like, well, that was so weird. I was walking Quinn and I was thinking about Marion and blah, blah, blah. And then next thing you know, there was a dog who barked. And then she's like, and then now I'm here. But she was back. So she missed the part, like obviously when she was knocked out until that moment. And my eyes started watering. And I was like, oh, like thankfully, obviously I'm talking to her and I'm like, okay, that's awesome. I'm like, this is so great. And she's chit-chatting and she's like, I am tired though. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. You just rest. So she had a rest. And then I quickly called my Aunt Lori, to say, okay, she's clear now. Like she's with it. I let my friends know who had the boys, like tell everybody that she's good to go. Oh, hear that loud motorcycle in the background? That's my son. Okay. Anyways, so I immediately, after I call my aunt, in my head, I'm like, holy crow. I think this is it. I had been thinking for probably about 6 months on and off before that, when I was in that state of figuring out what I was going to do, that I would possibly like to be trained in Reiki. But the other interesting point was at that point, I had met, I don't even know how many Reiki teachers. So I was thinking, how am I ever going to choose during that 6 month period? But in that moment, I knew. I sent Nizreen a message and I was like, hey, Nizreen, um, I think I told her what happened. And I said, I'm feeling drawn right now to getting my Reiki certification. And of course, she was like, oh, funny, because I'm running one in, I think it was like 2 weeks from then. And the dates that she was doing it, I was free. I was completely available. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I signed up and I did my Reiki certification, and it was magical and it was beautiful. I finished it and I was like, okay, I want to do my 3-4 levels. And she was like, okay, you need to just hold up. Like, you've got to practice, you've got to get your volunteer hours in, like your practicum, whatever you call them, my 20 people. And then you need to practice, like actually run a Reiki practice for at least a year before you do those next levels. So I was like, okay, fine. So yeah, I hammered through. I ended up with, I think, 25 volunteers. We were moving houses. We were moving to towns, and I didn't know anybody in the new town. So, excuse me. So anyways, I wanted to squeeze everybody in because I thought, how am I going to get volunteers if nobody even knows me in this new town? So I squeaked in all 25 in, I think it was like, I can't even remember. I think it was 6 weeks or something. It was crazy. And yeah. So then that was in 2020. Yes. And then we moved. And so then, yeah, I started my own practice in my current place. I worked out of my she shed, and then I worked out of a local yoga studio. Shout out to Cesa, which was awesome. It was so cool, which is just like another town 10 to 15 minutes up the road. And I've continued practice. I now do it fully out of my shed, my she shed. And yeah, so time passed. So actually, I can look right here because I was thinking, when did I do my master teacher? 2023. So 2.5. Yeah. So basically, when did I? So 20. Yeah. So about 2.5 years after I got my level 1-2, and 2.5 years ago from now, I did my master and teacher training, and with Nizreen as well. I love her. And yeah, so now I train other Reiki practitioners, and it is a phenomenal. I love it. I love my Reiki students. Oh, this is the other thing too. So when you're a Reiki master, I think it was in the master level that we learned to do aura clearings. I love aura clearings. So they are like this deep Reiki session where you sit and basically, this is when a person has something really big that they want to let go of. And it may be, childhood trauma. It may be a specific mindset. It may be grief. It may be a relationship or like not being able to let go of a relationship. So that is this beautiful session. It usually takes about 90 minutes, sometimes up to 2 hours. And I sit with the person and we basically dig and we figure out exactly what it is they want to let go of. We figure out where it is in their body that they're holding it. And then I basically scoop it out. They have to agree that they're ready to let it go, but they find where it is in their body. We kind of identify what it looks like and what kind of shape represents it. And then I scoop it out, and we usually follow it with a full Reiki session. Sometimes if it's a pretty significant one and there's a lot of scooping and a lot of figuring out and digging, then we use that time just to get rid of it that way. But generally there's a full Reiki session at the end just to rinse out any last remnants. But that's a powerful, powerful practice that I absolutely love doing with people. I've had so many responses and people just with comments about it being life-changing. So yeah, that's a part of the Reiki master level, which I flippin' love. So anyways, yeah, I think that's all I need to say about like how long it is. Almost a half hour, but that's okay. So if you guys ever have questions about Reiki, reach out to me. I love talking about it. I love doing it. And oh, here's the other thing. You can do Reiki through distance. So if you can't be physically in the same space that I'm in, I do distance sessions. So I basically set it up with pillows or with Barry, which is my big stuffed animal bear, and you do it by proxy. So we set aside a time, we do a little chit chat, and then you, in your space, put on relaxing music, choose a spot to lay down and just be cozy and relax. And then I give Reiki virtually. It's fantastic. And then we have the same chit chat at the end. And yeah, so I love doing it in person. Obviously, that's always preference, but there is the option if anybody wanted to ever experience Reiki through distance. And it does have the same effects. That's part of one of our symbols that we use is the distance symbol. And that works obviously through distance and through time. So we can work with past lives, different dimensions, different pieces of you. That's just kind of the overview of what Reiki is and my personal experience, but it is so much more than that. So anyways, I'm going to wrap this up and thank you once again for listening. I hope you have a spectacular day. Peace out. Thanks for hanging out and listening to my wild and wacky Tam Talks. Follow Tam Talks to be notified of new episodes. Peace out.